Tonight, we reveal the date Greater Sydney is set free, out of lockdown and back on holiday across our state. But what about us? The Mayor of Canterbury Bankstown joins businesses to demand the Premier release hotspot LGAs at the same time as the rest of the city. The new suburbs at the COVID crossroads urge to get the jab now before they become hotspots. Reassuring news about Delta and children, why the state's top doctors say you shouldn't be worried about your kids returning to school. And the Eels emotion, what brought these Parramatta players to tears.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. Your next holiday could be just weeks away under a plan to allow fully vaccinated residents back into our regional areas. The development will deliver a much-needed boost to the businesses across the state, all but wiped out by lockdown.
Book a jab and book a holiday. Travel from Sydney to our regional cities and towns is on the cards by as early as the end of October. While the other Australian states lock us out, the Deputy Premier has a plan for double-dosed Sydney-siders to be allowed to travel freely throughout our own state, as long as vaccination rates remain high.
The vaccination rates in regional rural New South Wales have to continue to rise, on par with what's happening in Metro Sydney.
Once 80% of the state is fully vaccinated, either by the end of October or start of November, a travel permit will be available on Service New South Wales. If you've had both doses, you will get approval. If you're unvaccinated, forget about it.
The police have the ability to make sure that anyone that's entering regional rural New South Wales has done so as authorised.
Business owners like South Coast Whale Watchers, Jess and Simon Miller, are desperate for the crowds to return.
It'd be great if people could come out and support people in the regions, once these lockdowns finish.
Because these past 11 weeks have cost them a bomb.
Just in the months we haven't been able to operate, we've dropped over $1 million worth of income, so it's having a massive effect.
The plan still needs to be signed off officially by Cabinet, because while the Sydney dollar might be welcome, outbreaks from Broken Hill to Batemans Bay and Bathurst have caused uneasiness.
Regional rural New South Wales do have a level of anxiety about people leaving Sydney.
And Chris is with me at the desk. Chris, you have breaking news.
Peter, we will be told tomorrow when we'll be exiting lockdown and how, with the roadmap to freedom to be released by the New South Wales government. Now, it was debated in Crisis Cabinet this afternoon with discussions around how pubs and restaurants will reopen for vaccinated customers with capacity limits. Hairdressers and barbers will open again only for vaccinated customers, while a discussion was had around churches and places of worship being able to resume as well, and weddings and funerals with capacity limits again just for vaccinated people. Now, the plan is likely to kick in the middle of October, so that's when lockdown will end, when we hit 70% double dose. Gladys Berejiklian and John Barilaro will outline this plan and all the details at 11 a.m. tomorrow. This is a crucial announcement, as it will signal the end of one of the worst winters in Sydney's history, and hopefully, Peter, moves us a little closer to the end of this pandemic.
I like the word hope. Thank you, Chris. The return of international travel is on the horizon as some states race towards a vaccination target of 80%. While trips to the US and UK might soon be possible, the federal government is working out how you can prove you've been vaccinated and quarantine at home.
Ready for takeoff.
Once we hit 80% double dose, we will definitely be opening up Sydney Airport.
The Commonwealth will start issuing international COVID-19 vaccination certificates from October.
When we hit that 80% vaccination mark, Australians will be able to travel overseas again.
Vaccinated Australians heading overseas will get an internationally recognised app with a QR code that registers approved vaccines. The information will also be embedded in the physical passport to streamline re-entry.
Australians will be able to return home in greater numbers, and we'll also be able to start welcoming international students, those who want to come here to work, and ultimately tourists again.
The international standard will allow travel to places like Singapore, Europe, the United Kingdom and the United States.
I'm pretty confident it's going to happen in the next few weeks, and that'll be a rush. People are inquiring pre-Christmas.
The return of international travel will signal an end to the busing of travellers from airports to hotels for 14 days of quarantine. South Australia has been trialling home quarantine using an app with facial recognition and geolocation. Both New South Wales and Victoria are keen to use it.
If you're prepared to give up a little bit of privacy, you can then quarantine at home.
Quarantine may be, if you double dosed, it may be, 2, 3, 4 days, get 2 negative tests and you're on your way.
The plan for reopening state borders relies in part on marrying proof of vaccination with all state-based check-in systems,
which will enable Australians also to freely travel within Australia and do so in a very safe manner.
Convincing the COVID-free states to reopen their borders will be harder than rebooting international travel, and the Morrison government still has Labor snapping at its heels over the slow start to the vaccine rollout.
Scott Morrison simply didn't take Pfizer seriously enough when he should, while every other developed country on the face of the planet was busy securing early supplies of Pfizer vaccines for their people.
Documents obtained under Freedom of Information show bureaucratic dithering on signing up for the Pfizer vaccine.
The government went on a go slow. It's always too little too late with this Prime Minister.
The Health Minister denies that charge and says no early doses were on offer. Chris Ullman, 9 News.
Suburbs on the city fringe are in the COVID firing line tonight, urged to lift their vaccination rates as cases climb. 9 more people have lost their lives, but there was also some good news. Our state hitting another jab milestone.
It's as contagious as the virus, the rush to get vaccinated, and with a new warning COVID was creeping into the inner suburbs, a pop-up clinic in Glebe was the place to be.
Jumped at the chance, so I just went online and got a slot instantly, and here we are.
The alert also extends to Waterloo, Redfern and Marrickville, the local PCYC, now a jab centre.
Goes to show you just how easy this pandemic is moving from suburb to suburb.
And today was the day we hit a new vaccination milestone. 75% of the people over 16 have received their first jab, but it was tempered by the climbing death toll.
Sadly, today we are reporting the deaths of 9 people.
From Dubbo to Sydney's west and southwest, the youngest a man in his 20s who died in a Nepean hospital.
He was not vaccinated and also had serious underlying health conditions.
The others were aged between in their 40s and 90s. Of the 9, 7 were unvaccinated, 1 had had 1 shot and 1 had been double vaxxed. Case numbers were also on the rise, 1,480, but vaccination rates remain the priority. A Bollywood tune remixed into a vaccine anthem has been credited for driving up jab numbers in a COVID-hit Blacktown, where 10% of the population is Indian.
It's a very serious topic about getting vaccinated, but we brought Bollywood into this, and Bollywood is a great leveller.
It's communities like Blacktown, Cumberland and Canterbury Bankstown demanding to be rewarded for rolling up their sleeves.
I'm closed now for over 2 months. I don't know how to pay the rent anymore.
Located in a hotspot, Padstow barber Joe Peters feared he would remain closed when the rest of Sydney opens up, but reported comments today from the Treasurer Dominic Perrottet has given him hope.
It's been so good to hear that the Treasurer said he no longer wants to see a tale of 2 cities. He wants to see our area open up with the rest of Sydney.
It's extremely pleasing that the vaccination rates in those local government areas of concern are very high. What is still concerning us is that 80% of cases are still in those areas of concern.
For the states, it's been a race to vaccinate, now a race to open up. In New South Wales, for the regions, it could be later this week and mid-October for Sydney. But Victoria's so-called lockdown Dan has jumped early in the face of rising cases.
We're not chasing zero anymore.
As a result, regional Victoria, except Shepparton, will reopen from midnight tomorrow. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Sydney Markets at Flemington has been closed to the public after a number of COVID exposures. Only registered buyers are now allowed in the venue, which has been assessed by Safe Work. Since the start of August, 47 people have been to the markets while infectious, but not all are linked. Unvaccinated adults are emerging as the biggest threat when it comes to protecting children from COVID. A new study of Delta in schools has shown spread between students is low and serious illness among children is rare.
The school drop-off, a daily kiss and wave, parents never thought they'd miss so much. But as we gear up for the return to class next month, many families have been searching for this reassurance.
COVID-19 remains generally mild in children.
Calming words from Professor Christine McCartney, a leading paediatric infectious disease specialist, as the latest statewide study of COVID in schools shows Delta is spreading 5 times more than last year's strains did. In the first 6 weeks of Sydney's second wave, there were COVID exposures at 19 schools and 32 daycare centres, but only 3 primary schools and 16 childcare centres saw transmission on site. There were exposures at 7 high schools and no transmission occurred.
The highest rate of spread was actually amongst unvaccinated adult staff. The spread of virus also occurred from adults to children, but the spread between children themselves was very low.
The study includes data from the last 2 weeks of Term 2, when schools were full with minimal restrictions as the Bondi wave was gaining steam. In that fortnight, there were infectious cases at 10 sites, but only 2 saw spread. In fact, 88% of children who got COVID were infected at home, and of the children infected, only 2% needed hospital treatment. The Premier hoping that will make families feel safe as schools make a staged return from the 25th of October.
And obviously in the warmer months you can have windows open and doors open and improve ventilation. So the plan is very much based on what is a safe way to return to school.
For HSC students, though, there is still so much uncertainty. Zara Zuccolotto lives in the hotspot LGA of Canterbury Bankstown and says her plans for next year are still up in the air.
The exams go on for 4 weeks and then we end. That's basically all we know right now. It's a very confusing time.
Students can expect a new exam timetable by the end of the week, but the key date is really the release of results, and universities are pushing for that to be scheduled as early as possible.
If the results are, delayed into late January and early February, obviously it'll be very challenging for universities to make offers and have enough time for students to get on board for the start of semester.
Liz Daniels, 9 News.
Ben Roberts-Smith's barrister has today accused the veteran's ex-wife of lying under oath. The Victoria Cross recipient claims former partner Emma Roberts gave his email and password to her best friend so that she could leak confidential information to 9 newspapers' legal team to help with their defamation defence. Lawyers for Ms Roberts say while she may have had access to the email, there is no evidence she passed on those account details. Disgraced Labor power broker Eddie Obeid is facing another lengthy stint behind bars for misconduct in public office. The Crown has argued he should be jailed, along with his son Moses and former friend Ian McDonald. But the 77-year-old claims he's too frail.
Eddie Obeid dialed into his sentence hearing in the Supreme Court from his palatial Sydney home, only to hear the Crown wants to send him back to a much less comfortable prison cell, this time for in excess of 7 years. Barely 2 years after he was last released on parole, having served time for corrupt dealings with Circular Quay leases. This was worse, the Crown argued today. The Obeid family poised to make $60 million off a coal exploration licence which covered their property near Mount Penny. A tender won with the help of inside information provided to Moses Obeid by then Resources Minister and mate Ian McDonald. The Crown said it wasn't so much the money as the damage done to the integrity of democracy by the one-time Labor kingmaker.
I never lie.
Both Obeid and McDonald are arguing they should not be jailed because of their numerous health complaints and the impact of COVID-19 on the state's prisons. They'll go into more detail on that tomorrow. A barrister acting for the younger Moses Obeid said he had suffered headaches as a result of his first COVID vaccine and couldn't get the second before the 12-week mark. 9 News understands work has already begun on appeals. Kelly Fedor, 9 News.
France's biggest ever criminal trial is about to start, with 20 men accused of involvement in the 2015 Paris terror attacks. Nine News correspondent Kari-Anne Greenbank joins me live. Kari, there's a heavy security presence there.
Well, there is, Peter. There's a really significant police presence both here at the Paris Law Courts, you can probably see behind me, and right across the city, with concerns there could be a new attack to coincide with this trial. But the hearing begins today. It'll run for 9 months, and it's set to be massive, involving hundreds of lawyers and witnesses, including a former French president. In fact, it's so big, the French government had to build a brand new temporary courtroom inside the Palais de Justice behind me, just to fit everybody in.
November 13, 2015 will be forever etched in France's memory. The date 130 people were killed in the country's deadliest terror attack, with simultaneous strikes on the Bataclan Theatre, the Stade de France, and bars and restaurants across Paris.
In memory of the victims.
Olivier Leplore survived the Bataclan shooting by hiding until the attackers were killed.
I was with my wife on the balcony. We had to hide in a changing room, in a dressing room, and we stayed there for 2.5 hours before the police got us out.
He now helps run a support group for around 700 people whose lives forever changed that night, and says this trial and the memories that resurface will be difficult.
You always have that kind of guiltiness after such attacks, to still be alive. Why me? Why not the others?
The new $16 million courtroom will house 330 lawyers, 9 judges and hundreds of witnesses, including former French President Francois Hollande. Of the 20 accused men, Salah Abdeslam is the key figure. Arrested in Brussels, he's the only one accused of direct involvement who's still alive.
It's been almost 6 years since the attack, but for many of the survivors and families of the victims, the pain is still raw. This trial seen as a crucial step forward in addressing France's national trauma.
But whether families of the dead will get the answers they seek is unclear. The accused aren't expected to break their silence. In Paris, Kari-Anne Greenbank, 9 News.
It is time now for a look at today's weather with Natalia, and along with the sunshine there was some big swell.
Yes, there was. Good evening to you, Pete. It was a beautiful day in Sydney, plenty of spring sunshine and some big waves on the coast. There weren't just regular surfers making the most of the swell. Our helicopter spotted this hydrofoil rider being towed onto a wave by a jet ski. Looks fun. A hazardous surf warning is in place for the entire New South Wales coastline today, and from Byron down to the Hunter for tomorrow. The city hit a top today of 21.7. Our west almost made it to 24 degrees. It's going to be really warm tomorrow. How warm? I'll tell you later, Pete.
Natalia, thank you. It was an icon on the Hawkesbury, but tonight 40 years of history is a pile of rubble. We speak to the devastated owners of the Pete's Bite Resort. Also tonight, the FBI has been hunting him for a decade. Now he's appeared as a senior minister in Afghanistan. Relief for crippling back pain in just 20 minutes. We'll tell you how to get it. Watch as a toddler wanders onto a busy road. His addiction to gaming almost claims his life. And swooping season reaches a shock new level. Former New South Wales Premier Kristina Keneally appears set for a gear change. The senator is tipped to run for the lower house seat of Fowler, which takes in part of Western Sydney. She would replace the retiring Chris Hayes if she were to win. 9 News understands the switch was made after it became clear Senator Keneally would not win top spot on Labor's New South Wales Senate ticket. It was a family's labour of love for 40 years that became a dining institution. But tonight, Pete's Bite on the Hawkesbury River lies in ruins. The tourist attraction has gone up in flames. The cause of the fire, still a mystery.
4 decades of memories up in smoke. The iconic Pete's Bite restaurant gutted. Nestled alongside the Hawkesbury River, the only way in is by boat. RFS crews ferried across just after 7:30 last night, but by the time they arrived, it was too late.
40 years nearly of
Blood, sweat and tears.
I don't think it really hit me until this morning, you know. You get up and you come out and you look at that and you think, you know, how do you fix that?
1 hour north of Sydney, the picturesque holiday destination is known and loved by both locals and visitors from across the globe.
You know, we just had such an outpour of support from all over the world, and so many people that we know that come here and have had happy times here, and we'll just got to get back to it now.
The restaurant had only just undergone 4 months worth of renovations. It was fully booked for the summer and staff were gearing up for a busy peak season. Instead, they'll be starting from scratch.
Next step is starting to think about how to get it back, you know, how to rebuild it.
With no gas or electricity connected at the time of the blaze, police aren't ruling out the possibility this may have been deliberate. Grace Fitzgibbon, 9 News.
A second property on the Hawkesbury River has also been damaged by a fire. A large shed at an oyster farm in Mooney Mooney caught light just before 1 this afternoon. A number of people managed to escape before a roof collapsed. Acrid smoke filled the sky as gas cylinders and plastic materials fuelled the blaze. The two fires are not believed to be linked. The Taliban has unveiled its acting government with a Prime Minister who is facing UN sanctions. It's a common theme among the appointments, who are all men. The new Interior Minister has been on the FBI's most wanted list for 10 years. The Taliban claimed he was dead in 2018. Hundreds of women have protested on the streets demanding equal rights, but were soon dispersed. The father of Britney Spears has asked a California judge to terminate the pop star's conservatorship. Jamie Spears says he wants the best for his daughter and, after controlling her finances for 13 years, believes the 39-year-old should be able to control her own life. Children tend to tune out when they have a tablet in their hand. In this case, it could have claimed a life. A toddler in a diaper wandering into traffic in California while playing a video game. You can see cars dodging the 2-year-old boy before a Good Samaritan pulls over to rescue him. In the news ahead, the new crisis in aged care. Too many workers refusing to get the jab. The Sydney suburb set to kill rogue magpies after a string of injuries. The Dural father who saved 306 lives. And the luxury hotel chain offering the ultimate getaway for any Sydneysider who is vaccinated. There are fears tonight thousands of staff could be lost from the aged care sector when mandatory COVID vaccination rules come into effect next week. Unions warn more needs to be done to persuade hesitant workers to get the jab.
Most aged care workers know what they need to do.
I've had my shot. I've had my shot.
To protect the most vulnerable in our community.
Their safety is the most important thing.
At Ballycara Retirement Village, north of Brisbane, every staff member will be vaccinated by September 17 when it becomes a condition of employment for anyone working in aged care.
They've all put their hand up. Nothing's been forced, but they understand, the work they do.
Nationwide, 89% of the 271,000 strong workforce has had at least one dose of a vaccine. But according to Department of Health data, some areas are lagging behind, including care homes in Noosa, Coffs Harbour and Narrabri in northern New South Wales.
The aged care rollout has been just a logistical nightmare from day one.
Workers say supply and access were initially a problem in regional areas. Now hesitancy is proving the biggest barrier.
My concern is through mandating and not engaging, we will see a workforce start to disappear.
Unions warn thousands of employees may leave the industry, stretching a workforce already under pressure.
All the advice we have from the sector is that they are not expecting workforce shortages.
But privately, the sector has raised concerns about some facilities being left short-staffed. In a statement, Leading Age Services Australia says they're looking to government to ensure appropriate supports are in place.
The important issue right now, people who are hesitant with us.
Just over a week out from the deadline, the time for talking is quickly running out. Eliza Edwards, 9 News.
The foster family of missing boy William Tyrrell has lashed out at reports police are investigating a person of interest who had previously been ruled out, labelling it as devastating and disrespectful fake news. 9 News understands detectives are considering a new theory almost 7 years after William went missing from his grandmother's home at Kendall. Residents in Lane Cove North say they are sick and tired of being terrorised by a feathered felon. Many have come off second best against rogue magpies, and now council is taking action.
Spotted in Johnston Crescent this afternoon. It's hard to imagine something so small and unassuming could cause this. Swooping and scratching residents, leaving locals bloodied and bruised. In the past month alone, it's attacked at least 8 times. On the 18th, one walker was chased down the street. On the 29th, another resident was sent to the doctor. And on the 31st, a runner was attacked 3 times, drawing blood.
It didn't draw blood to me, but it's drawn blood on people who've come to my house. I saw a woman fall over outside my house.
After petitioning Lane Cove Council to take action for 2 years, this morning residents received a letter informing them National Parks and Wildlife has granted permission to cull 2 of the birds. But not everyone's on board.
They said that they would perhaps remove the magpie. They didn't say they're going to kill it, so yeah.
It seems like a beat up and it seems like overkill.
Unfortunately, relocating the magpies isn't an option because as far as Parks and Wildlife is concerned, once a bird shows aggression towards people, destruction is the only solution. Which is heartbreaking for residents like Andrew, who's named the Maggies Arthur and Martha and considers them more friend than foe.
It's ridiculous. I mean, these magpies have lived here for years. There's been generations of them.
Sophie Walsh, 9 News.
Hans Cunnin survived September 11 and vowed to give back. He's now saved 306 lives, and the Dural father has done it all by rolling up his sleeve.
Like today, it was a blue sky September morning. Hans Cunnin was working in New York when the towers fell. What emerged from the dust that day was a man desperate to make a difference.
The 14th of September, I made my way down to an emergency blood donation centre in New York and gave blood.
Since then, Hans has rolled up his sleeve 102 times, each donation reopening old wounds, grieving the lives lost, while saving lives too.
This is a good country. This is a great country. And we're through to do this and we have the technology. So why not do it?
Already overwhelmed hospitals coping with COVID-19 are now facing a new challenge, and that is the need for blood, with supplies stretched because of lockdowns, cancellations and closures. After a near-fatal accident, Paris Kokkinos is grateful for donors like Hans.
If the blood wasn't there and available for me, I wouldn't be sitting here in this seat today.
The Red Cross is now calling on Australians to give blood to make up for the 30,000 donations which were lost in the past year. The blood type most needed is O, and particularly O negative, which is useful in an emergency situation. Because Hans knows when you give blood, it's more than blood you're giving. Ellie Walsh, 9 News.
A holiday outside of the state, let alone overseas, well, it might be coming along a little sooner, as we reported earlier in the news. But Marriott International is giving us something to dream about. Fully vaccinated Australians can go into a draw to win the ultimate getaway, staying at the company's resorts in Australia and New Zealand, Fiji and New Caledonia. Sounds nice. Lockdown has seen a rise in social media use and a rise in hacking. Tonight, real-life examples of small business owners losing the lot to cyber criminals. We'll tell you how to avoid this happening to you. Chronic pain management you can wear. Cam, tonight we hear from Blake Taaffe.
Yeah, the Souths youngster with the biggest job in the finals, Pete. As he admits, he's no Latrell Mitchell. He also knows the Panthers will target him. But will Taaffe even line up at fullback? The clues say no. Cameron Munster reveals the 2 tragedies that tore him apart this year and why he's very glad he doesn't live in Sydney. Floods of emotion, the unexpected moment that broke some of Parramatta's toughest players.
More beautiful spring sunshine on the way, and it's warming up as well. How high will temperatures go? I'll tell you very soon.
The big energy switch. New changes to shave hundreds off your power bill. How to start saving within 2 days. The full story on 9 News tomorrow.
He's had 19 years in the NRL, but will this one be the last for Benji Marshall? The Rabbitohs veteran insists he won't make that call until after the season, while teammates say the 36-year-old still has the X factor.
344 games on the big stage. So how many left for Benji Marshall?
That's the furthest thing from my mind at the moment. Yeah, and I don't want to make it about me. It's about the team and getting through Penrith this week. But yeah, I haven't thought about that yet.
Marshall's pretty much done it all, including a premiership with the Tigers back in 2005.
He's right next to me, so I don't like to give him too much of a rap because he gets a bit of a big head. But most of the guys in the NRL in our positions really looked up to him back in those 2005, 2006 years where he was just tearing blokes apart.
When Benji started playing, Blake Taaffe was only 3 years old. He's been named to replace Latrell Mitchell at fullback.
It's massive. Look, I'm not the size of Latrell. I don't plan on being the size of Latrell, so I think I just got to go out there, play to my strengths.
There are some whispers of a late switch-up, with Benji Marshall in the halves and Cody Walker at fullback.
We'll just wait and see.
Jai Arrow has spoken for the first time since being kicked out of Queensland camp. He brought a woman back to the team hotel and feared his career could be over.
And I'm very grateful for the club for sticking by me through the tough times, and I can't thank them enough. And I know I let a lot of people down, but yeah, I've just got to move on and worry about my job ahead.
And it's official, the grand final will be held at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Emma Lawrence, 9 News.
Storm superstar Cameron Munster has spoken for the first time about the 2 family tragedies which affected his form this year. As he prepares to take on the Sea Eagles on Friday, Munster also revealed why he may be forced to leave Melbourne.
It's the most talked about knee in the NRL for a good reason. Manly know if the Storm have a fit and firing Cameron Munster, they're almost impossible to beat. Munster says he's 50-50.
50% of Munster's better than nothing, isn't it?
I don't know about that. You sort of see me in the Origin series.
Today, Munster decided to let his guard down and explain why he's been battling for form this year.
My partner's obviously lost her mum 4 months ago, or 5 months ago actually. And then obviously before that we had a miscarriage as well. So it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster for the family, but a bit of disbelief, to be honest with you. I didn't think it happened.
There's been better news in recent weeks. His partner Bianca is pregnant again.
It's a scary thought. Can barely look after myself, mate. So it's going to be a nice change for myself, and it'll make me change a lot of things in my life, and it's probably for the better.
Munster doesn't want to lose the larrikin streak completely.
I find if I just dwell on things too much, and I start getting weird things in my head, and I don't want to be making my head think too much because there's not much in there anyway.
I thought we got the chimpanzees playing cymbals.
Yeah, the chimpanzees and the cymbals are playing a fair bit, especially on weekends.
And that nature will play its part in his thought process when he signs his next deal. Right now, he fears he may be a roadblock to the best young talent coming through at the Storm.
If they want to keep those young players, then I'll have to move away.
Do you reckon you'd be on many front pages and stuff if you lived in Sydney?
I'd probably be on the Danny Wilder exclusive every week. But yeah, look, I guess I'm very lucky enough and fortunate enough that I live in Melbourne, and during my time when I was a bit of an animal kid, yeah, look, I probably would have been in the papers a fair bit.
On the Sunshine Coast, Danny Weidler, 9 News.
The Wallabies will become the first Australian sporting team to introduce a permanent First Nations design into their jersey. Starting this weekend, an Indigenous pattern will be printed into the numbers on each player's jumper. The Wallabies face South Africa on the Gold Coast on Sunday. Swans co-captain Luke Parker says the potential of Sydney's rising stars was one of the biggest factors which encouraged him to sign a new deal at the club.
Next year it's about improving again. I know we have the group to continue to push for finals, continue to push for to be right at the top.
28-year-old Parker has agreed to a 4-season contract extension, so that'll keep him in Sydney until the end of 2025. The Socceroos have won their 10th straight match, edging them closer to qualification for next year's World Cup. Ryan Grant's goal late in the first half was enough for victory over Vietnam in the steamy conditions in Hanoi. Australia sits on top of Group B and needs to finish in the top 2 to book a ticket to Qatar. This year's Women's US Open champion will be a first-timer. Second seed Aryna Sabalenka eased past French Open winner Barbara Krejcikova, who was physically spent after her fourth-round match. She'll face 19-year-old surprise packet Leylah Fernandez in the semis. The Canadian continued her giant-killing run, upsetting world number 5 Elina Svitolina in 3 sets, while on the men's side, 18-year-old Carlos Alcaraz could not escape a quarter-final adductor injury, so he was forced to retire against Felix Auger-Aliassime. For the first time, the World Surf League title for men and women will be decided on the same day in a winner-takes-all event in California. 3 Australians are in the mix at lower trestles, and for Stephanie Gilmore, it's a chance for a record-breaking 8th championship title.
Our golden girl will wear green as she paddles out to try and make history. With 7 world titles under her belt, Stephanie Gilmore and Layne Beachley are currently tied as the world's greatest female surfers on record.
You could knock the legend off her perch. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I've always wanted to win many world titles, and Layne's been a huge inspiration for me in terms of just, not really setting a limit on what you can do, just continually winning back to back. And so, yeah, sitting at equal 7th is cool, but I'd love to win 8th.
Traditionally, world titles are awarded based on end-of-season standings, but this year they'll be decided with the top 5 men and women battling it out in a knockout contest, all on the same day. Ranked 4th, Gilmore will have to knock out the 2nd and 3rd seeds in order to face the current world leader, Carissa Moore. Fueled by a disappointing performance in Tokyo, Sally Fitzgibbons is hoping to break her title drought.
If that door's just a little bit open, I'm putting the foot in, and Fitzy's going to come in with full steam ahead.
And sneaking into the men's top 5, Morgan Sibulik, the 21-year-old rookie from Newcastle, coming from nowhere to make his first World Championship bid.
I love being the underdog. It takes a bit of pressure off you, and it kind of gives you that fire to prove everyone wrong.
Lower Trestles is a famous point break here in Southern California, known for some of the best waves in the world. The world title window opens on Friday, and officials will wait for ideal conditions for this winner-takes-all event.
In San Clemente, California, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
And finally, a glimpse into how tough it's been for NRL players who haven't been able to bring loved ones into their Queensland bubble. The Eels surprising some of their stars with messages from home.
That was my partner, Els. She's
It's tough. It's been 8 weeks since players packed their bags and headed north to keep the competition alive. I've got some chimps and symbols in my head telling me it's your turn now, Pete.
Thank you, Cam. Next, we have breaking news. It's about one of Sydney's most notorious gangsters, Neddy Smith. More in a moment. The new way Facebook hackers are stealing your money, locking accounts and destroying small businesses. And a new treatment for back pain that works in just 20 minutes. As we come back to you, we have breaking news. Notorious Sydney criminal Arthur Neddy Smith has died of natural causes at Long Bay Jail Hospital. Smith was convicted of multiple crimes in the 1980s. He operated under the protection of corrupt police officers, including Roger Rogerson, who he later gave evidence against at the Wood Royal Commission. Smith was immortalised in the television series Blue Murder. Neddy Smith spent more than 40 years in jail. He was 76 years old. Australian businesses using social media platforms to boost sales are being targeted by overseas hackers. It's a blow to many of these businesses already unable to trade due to lockdown.
Elise Georgievsky spent years building up her Combi Hire business on Instagram. All that hard work disappeared overnight when cybercriminals took over her account, demanding $500 in Bitcoin to get it back.
It affects us. I guess, I get emotional because everything just hit at once, lockdown and then getting hacked.
Mark Bowness has turned his knowledge of Facebook into $1 million business. Even he was hamstrung when his account was hacked.
I couldn't actually do anything other than see money come out of my account.
By the time he got onto his bank to stop the fraudulent transactions, $6,000 had been siphoned from his account.
It just blew me away as to how this could actually happen.
Since the start of the pandemic, police have seen a spike in cyber attacks across the country. We're relying more on technology, and that's presented new opportunities for offenders.
They're increasing not only in their number, their frequency, but also the financial impact.
Facebook told Nine News it works hard to protect its community from hackers and is making significant investments in technology to protect the security of people's accounts.
While it may be frustrating, the best way to protect yourself is by using different passwords for all your accounts. That way, if one is compromised in a data breach, you won't be exposed. Turn on two-factor authentication and don't use the same email address for your business and personal accounts.
Hackers are not struggling to hack into anybody's network anymore because the data is available. They're just leveraging on previous data breaches and correlating that to the social experiences that we are having today.
Kate Creedon, 9 News.
It's being hailed as providing relief from chronic back pain in just 20 minutes. Electromuscular stimulation, a form of therapy delivering low voltage electrical impulses to muscles via electrodes placed on the skin. It can reduce inflammation while strengthening muscles and expediting the healing process of injured or damaged tissue.
Instantly, people find their back is at least looser, and then within a couple of sessions, they've noticed that their back pain has pretty much disappeared.
An overseas study found 2 of these sessions a week for 5 weeks showed a reduction in back pain in 88% of those who took part. Coming up in our news, we'll have finance for you, petrol prices, and Natalia's here with our weather.
Pete, somewhat of a spring heat wave is heading our way over the next few days. Right now it's 16 in the city and 16 in our west. All of the details are next.
For the share market today, following weakness on global markets overnight, a drop in the price of gold had local miners in the firing line, some losing as much as 6%. But it was a big day for Macquarie, with shares in the diversified bank touching a record high after saying it expects a big first half profit. And the Australian dollar slipped back below 74 US cents and was lower against the other majors too. It's also dropped beneath $1.04 New Zealand, which is close to its lowest level of the year so far.
Chris, thank you. Let's look at fuel. The average price for unleaded petrol is $1.56 a litre. For diesel, $1.48.2. Here's Natalia.
A good reminder, I need some fuel tonight on the way home. Good evening. A beautiful spring day in Sydney, plenty of sunshine and warm as well. Some big swell along the coast. Around the basin today, Penrith peaked at 24 degrees, so did Kellyville and Parramatta. 23 was the top at Liverpool and Cronulla, while the city hit its forecast maximum of 22 degrees. Clear skies across much of the state today. 20 degrees in Bega, 19 at Wollongong and Newcastle. 24 was the top in Grafton, Burke and also Broken Hill. To the charts at a high is keeping the weather fine across most of New South Wales. It'll be sitting just off the coast in the coming days, and that will direct warm northwesterly winds over us. A cold front will cause damaging winds on the Snowy Mountains tomorrow. A severe weather warning is in place. Around the country tomorrow, a mostly sunny day in Brisbane with a top of 25. Warm but windy in Melbourne with showers expected in Hobart. 25 the maximum in Adelaide. With clear skies, it'll be another chilly night in inland centres, down to a degree in Dubbo, Mudgee and Bathurst. 25 the maximum in Bega and Batemans Bay tomorrow, and 28 degrees up in Grafton. A hazardous surf warning is in place from Byron Bay down to the Hunter region for tomorrow. We're in for a glorious day here in Sydney tomorrow, mostly sunny and a warm 27 degrees, which is 7 above the September average, dropping to around 9 degrees tonight. Winds will start out light, then turn west to northwest, 20 to 30 kilometres an hour in the middle of the day. There could be some morning fog in the outer western suburbs, otherwise mostly sunny skies. 28 the top in Penrith, 27 in Blacktown and Parramatta, 25 at Terry Hills and 24 on the coast at Cronulla. Looking ahead, mostly sunny again on Friday and 24. Then have a look at the weekend, 28 degrees on both days. Then the rain will arrive, a shower or two on Monday. Heavier falls on Tuesday Tuesday with a couple of showers continuing on Wednesday. In our west, 27 the top on Friday, a hot 29 on Saturday and 28 degrees on Sunday. A big temperature drop on Monday to 19 degrees with a couple of showers set to fall on Tuesday and Wednesday, but lots of lovely sunshine to enjoy before that. Pete.
I like that, Natalia. Thank you. Tracy's next with a current affair. That is 9 News for this Wednesday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.